Welcome, Internet, to the PixelPlay Podcast, your weekly video game podcast where your three gaming buddies get together to talk about all things video games. I am one of your hosts, Kaylan, aka Catastrophe, joined always by my co-host, Adam, at CS Radical, and
a guy.
we're missing one. We're missing one. He's gone. Chris, at Jin and Chris, who is on vacation, supposedly, though I've not seen any pictures.
I didn't accept his vacation days. What the hell is this?
You know, we're gonna have to dock him. This is coming straight out of his pay. He it's unacceptable to do.
Well,
this.
I mean, at this point, it's great that I'm docking his pay because it means negative, which means I get money now. So this is perfect.
Right? I mean, he walks around like he's a founder here. He forgets that he's the employee. We're the founders.
Right?
Yeah, definitely let the power go to my head there. Hey guys, this week we're going to be talking about a couple things going on in the video game world. Those two things being, one, a new console being announced, the Nintendo Switch 2, the Electric Boogaloo, as well as PlayStation cutting back on their live service games. We're going to be talking all that and more. If you like what we do, you can find us wherever you get your podcast by searching for PixelPlay Podcast. We also have a Discord. If you want to join us there, we have lots of buddies there who we like to chat with. Have great topics, great discussions, and we'd love to have a few more, so feel free to join us there. With that being said, I missed you guys last week. Adam, how are you doing? What have you been up to? What's new in your world?
Well, for starters, I'm pissed.
Why?
Because you're here. I had a whole bit I was going to do on a solo recording this week, but then you were like, actually, I can make time today. I'm like, damn it. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do when I don't have the opportunity to make fun of two of you at the same time?
I'm sorry my presence offends you. I was able to relinquish my responsibilities as a parent so I could come and support you, and I just feel the appreciation. So,
jeez, you just couldn't be a good father for one more hour today. Even though he's probably asleep at this point.
Yeah, they both are asleep at this point. So, do you want me to give you the floor so you can have a second just to, if you want to go?
No, the moment's gone. I can't do it. Well,
you're just gonna cut this. You're gonna cut this episode and just do it anyways,
right? Just immediately sideswipe the screen and be like, "Here's what would have happened."
Yeah,
it's like the Clue bit where they do this could have happened, but here's what actually happened.
For sure. Man, I've been going through and just playing video game. So this week I've been playing Dragon Age Veilguard. You're a BioWare person.
I made 2 hours. I meant 2 or 3 hours, and that's as far as I got before I went, this is boring.
Yeah,
here's the thing. The intro was fine. It wasn't amazing, but it was fine. I didn't mind the initial party you're given. I didn't love them. And then the second I got my next character who I could recruit, which was an assassin. I've already forgotten his name because I do not care.
Yeah, that guy.
That was the point where I went, I'm going on a mission to save you, and you have added nothing. Why am I doing this? And that was the point where I went, I do not need to spend a full 50 hours on this. I am
Is that
happy.
how long this game is?
I have no idea. I just assume because that's how long it usually takes me to beat BioWare games.
Okay. Because, Jen asked me, she's like, hey, what have you been playing and stuff? And I'm like, oh, I'm playing, Dragon Age. And she's like, how is it? And I'm like, I'm not a BioWare guy. The only BioWare game I've played since I played Knights of the Old Republic, but I feel like that's old school BioWare. Now there's the what we think of BioWare with the Dragon Age and the Mass Effect age, and I really only played Mass Effect 1 and then dropped out. So for me, I'm playing Dragon Age 2, and I don't mind it. I'm playing as a mage swords. I'm playing as a mage, but a spell sword kind of guy. So I'm throwing daggers and stuff, and it's pretty cool. But oh man, this game is not welcoming to new players.
Well, it's definitely a case where the story is already very confusing because there's stuff that you have to know. But on top of that, what they give you isn't even interesting to begin with. Even if you go in without, I know a little bit of the lore because I played Inquisition and I've played all the other Dragon Quest games, so I'm at least not completely in the dark. And even then, I'm like, you guys are giving us nothing. It's like you're just writing us into... It's like it's an episode of Scooby-Doo where it's just a new thing we drop into. And we're just expected to be I'm sure this will connect to something at some point.
Yeah, I'm feeling there's a lack... I don't see the conflict, right? I'm like a couple hours in, probably like 5 or 6 hours in, and like that may not be a long time, but like they're all like, oh, like this is happening, and I'm like, I don't see it. Like I don't see. Like I went to like spoilers for early parts of Dragon Age in Veilguard. If you don't like it, skip ahead. But like it's basically like these two gods come out who have blood, which is once again like this black veiny sort of thing, which is the most generic ass video game like trope there is. This is like the equivalent of like supervillains having beams going into the sky level of like absurdity. And I'm like, so one town got hit and I don't really see the impact, right? Like I don't know. It's just I'm confused what's going on. I'm not super into the lore yet. Like I'm like there's a lot of characters and a lot of factions and they're just like assumed you know this and I'm like Inquisition came out 10 years ago. You got to assume you got to do a refresher at least for like your players and stuff like that, let alone the people who are coming in for the first time. Because in some ways this does feel like it's supposed to be a not a reintroduction, but it seems like it's supposed to be like coming in for new players, and it's not hitting that. So I don't know. I'm playing that, but I'm playing Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, and holy cow, that game is amazing. It feels just like A Link to the Past, and I'm absolutely loving it. I want more of these kind of games of Zelda. Like I am not the biggest Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild fan. I really like this top-down 2D Zelda, and I hope they make more of these.
And we'll probably talk about it a little bit with the Switch too as well. Because I'm not a big fan of the Breath of the Wild games, all I can say is, man, I hope that they are at least making some sort of either it's a remake of something like Link to the Past or doing some other alternative that's more like what Link's Awakening and Echoes of Wisdom have been, because honestly, I think that's where Zelda's kind of shining right now. I know people who are big Nintendo fanboys are going to say the absolute opposite because obviously Breath of the Wild was a game of the year, Tears of the Kingdom almost was a game of the year. But like, as someone who thinks open world games really need to take a step back for the next little while, I do not need to see more of this because I do not see what the appeal is anymore because it's just empty wastelands. And unless they find some way to really like condense it down and make it so that it's a much more engaging overall world, I don't see how these games can functionally stay intriguing and engaging to people over and over again, because we've already seen it with games like Horizon, which people are already like not caring about anymore for similar reasons.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think they're going to abandon the Tears of the Kingdom formula for this, because I think honestly, that's the more popular version or iteration of Link. But I think of like Mario, like we have the 2D Marios and we have the 3D Marios, and I don't see that those two are in conflict with each other, and I don't see why isn't a reason why we couldn't have 2D top-down Zelda and 3D open world Zelda. Like they can exist in the same bubble. Like, I feel like they have their own, like, little spots
There's a perfect world where they can do both, in the same way that people are still begging for a Metroid Prime, and we've got Metroid Dread now. So, in the same way that probably the next big Mario game is going to be another similar to Odyssey, where we had Wonder not too long ago. They're generally pretty good at balancing. I think it's just for the first time in a while we're seeing Zelda in a light that people are like, oh, it doesn't just have to be third-person, like, open-world adventure game anymore with them.
Yeah,
I mean, especially now that there's no handheld, like we don't have a Link Between Worlds anymore because it doesn't exist. So you don't have that hardware limitation where you need to make a game more like that. Now, with the Switch having the capability, more often than not, to do games of that scope, now they've been concentrating a little bit in that direction, but they've also kind of fallen back on, okay, we can still make these sort of old school feeling games and it can still work.
Yeah, for sure. I want to talk a little bit more about Nintendo this week, but I don't want to take away like hearing about what you're playing first. So like, let's do that, and we'll circle back to Nintendo. So like, what have you been up to the last 2 weeks?
Well, honestly, not a whole lot.
Okay.
I'm still playing catch up with all the reviews that I haven't done, so I'm going to be talking more about that. But I'll start with just what I've briefly been doing. I said last week my backlog is basically 0, or at least things that I'm like desperate to play.
Well done, sir.
I'm kind of...
It's a good feeling, right?
Yeah, it is. At the same time, I don't know what to do with myself. I'm actually watching anime all of a sudden again because I have time. Right now, I'm kind of just messing with stuff. Like, I'm playing a little bit of the Ace Attorney trilogy that they brought up for the Edgeworth games that they've recently brought over. And I also, out of desperation tried Marvel Rivals.
Oh yeah,
which I'm
just
shocked.
in time for it to get banned.
That's how bad it is. Is that I decided to go play a hero shooter.
Yeah,
and it's fine. Again, like if I had a full party, I could maybe justify it more. But either playing alone or playing with one person, it still isn't like what Helldivers is, where it can be very easy to get a group together. I don't have a lot of people that are interested in playing Overwatch plus Marvel at this point, so
nope.
I can see why people like it. I mean, again, like art-wise, it's fucking incredible what they've done with it, and they're consistently putting they've already put the Fantastic Four in, and they're just they're not stopping. Because I mean, obviously, it's not like Overwatch where you have to create characters from scratch. They can pull from whatever they want, and they've said they'll go not just to the big names; they'll go as obscure as they can. Because I mean, you have characters like
character yet?
What's that?
Is Howard the Duck available yet?
No, but I mean, already Jeff the Shark is, so you can't tell me that it's not going to be a possibility. I mean, when you're pulling
I don't even know who Jeff the Shark is.
Exactly. Luna Snow, Penny Parker, Cloak and Dagger, which I marked the fuck out seeing Cloak and Dagger there. That is a Maximum Carnage thing for me as a kid, where I didn't realize what the hell they were until they were in that game. So, like, it's honestly, like, I'm glad just to see that they've proven that it isn't just Overwatch or Valorant that can do this shit. Because quite honestly, like, I think they've both outstayed their welcome at this point. It's nice to see some new blood in there. And it's nice to see Marvel games back on track after the last couple of fuck-ups that have happened with stuff like Avengers. So you know what? I'm not happy that it's a free-to-play hero shooter that's doing it, but at least somebody's doing it.
Yeah.
But aside from that, stuff that I'm still catching up on review-wise, I mean, I've posted a lot of this in the Discord, but I'm still trying to get back to square one again, so we're all caught up, because I obviously don't just want to say on one episode, hey, here's 10 games that I finished in the last, 2 months, so I'm slowly doling them out. I did play through the Call of Duty Black Ops 6, I think it was, because I don't care that much about it at this point, as you can tell by how much I'm remembering which number it is. But I did play through the campaign on that one. It's fine. I've gone out there plenty of times on the show saying that Call of Duty campaigns are essentially like comfort food. It's good, solid shooters, has some cool stuff in there once in a blue moon, and then does some fun stuff. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that it's like an incredible game and it's game-changing for what it does. It isn't. It really is just a standard run-of-the-mill Call of Duty campaign. Great gameplay, some fun moments, and that's about it. I mean, they do stuff that's a little... Black Ops has always been the weird one. They always do a couple of extra weird things. Like, they have a horror-esque zombies level in this one. They do, you know how in so many games when they do you're saving someone from their own thoughts, and you're inside their mind, and it's like this void but with a little bit of a platform and a path, and you're walking around, that's their jumbled memories. They do that thing because everyone has to have that sequence at some point in their game. So they do some interesting things, but story-wise it's so goddamn boring that it kind of outweighs the other and makes it a 7 out of 10 at best, because for all of the fun that a Call of Duty campaign is, there's no substance to it. I didn't give a rat's ass about anything that happened in that story. I was just like, yay, let's go kill some more people. Woo! And then that's basically how I played that campaign. Nothing special, but it's not offensively bad. The Ghost campaign is still the all-time worst for me. That one's pretty goddamn brutal. But
I feel like Call of Duty's like Ubisoft games, right? And stick with me on this, is that they're never going to set the world on fire, but they're also reliably for me at least, and I know how you feel about Ubisoft, but that idea of hey, they're reliably a good time. They're not going to be groundbreaking. They're not going to, change the world, but you're going to enjoy the 10 to 20 hours you're with them.
Sure, but I would say there's one difference between the two. One of them was free on Game Pass.
That's true.
So point goes to Microsoft. Congratulations, Activision. There's your one win that I'm going to give you probably for the next 10 years.
Take it. So I was going to talk to you because you were saying you don't have anything to play. I remember you playing Cyberpunk, and you finished Cyberpunk, right?
Oh, yeah. With the DLC.
Did you do the DLC?
Yeah.
Okay.
I waited until everything was all good to go, because I'm like, if I'm actually going to play this game, I'm going to wait till it's essentially finished.
I was just going to say, because that DLC, say what you want about CD Projekt Red, but they make, I think, the best DLC.
Well, because it was after the big 2.0 update, so it was also when they really put the game in the state that it should have been when it launched.
Yeah.
So I definitely had no issues with it then. And so, I got everything I could want out of that. And I was able to play that on PC, which was amazing to me. I was sitting here thinking I was going to have to play that on console. My PC was just good enough to handle whatever I was throwing at it. So, but the other big one I want to talk about and get off is the last 10 out of 10 I played in 2024, which would have been Astrobot, which I know you guys happily were gushing about constantly. The actual game of the year, according to Jeff Keighley and the Game Awards, not my personal game of the year, but actually, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, man, I played so many good games between all the indie stuff that I did this year. It's very close to not cracking top 5 potentially. So I think it might just be 5th because Helldivers is also out of the top 3. I think it might be those, and even Aiden, man, Astrobot might not even be top 5 for me this year. That's crazy. But it is a 10 out of 10. Straight up, not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. It is more than worthy of the Game of the Year win that it got. It's not my pick. I'm still mad Bellatra Metaphor didn't win it. But if there was anybody else that was going to win it, at least it wasn't Elden Ring DLC. So you know what? I'm not that upset. And, we've talked about it a bunch of times separately, but like, there's really not a bad thing you can say about this game apart from the challenge levels that once in a blue moon will tick you off.
Oh, I love the challenge levels. The more I think back to it, the more that those were
they're fun in the okay, this isn't baby's first platformer sort of easy, but at the same time there was a couple. There's one that I know Chris mentioned when we were talking. I think it was our Game of the Year episode where he mentioned the one challenge where you're required to go through a couple of lava pits with that rubber duck one, and it's very inconsistent and really hard to kind of nail down and gets very frustrating. There's little things like that, but to repeat what we've said 100 times about this game. You can't go wrong with the atmosphere. It just nails that perfectly. You can't go wrong with the nostalgia values. You can't go wrong with the level design. You can't go wrong with the vibes. It's just everything is done right. And for a platformer in 2024 to be as good as it is when it's really not coming from Nintendo is actually kind of astonishing because almost nobody does it. So to at least see, that's the other thing that I'm taking about it winning Game of the Year is see platformers not made Nintendo or named Mario can actually do well.
Yeah.
You don't always have to make open world or first person shooter games, guys. Sometimes games that are just really fun to play and not some technical powerhouse that does some crazy intuitive things actually does anything. Sometimes it's just really, really solid comfort food gaming that can do really, really well.
It's not even comfort food gaming. It's just fun gaming, right? It doesn't feel like a chore. It doesn't feel exhausting. It's not it doesn't burn you out.
You can almost make a case for it being nostalgia because back in the day, games were fun. That's our nostalgia. So many games now kind of have forgotten what fun is.
Yeah. Yeah, they go for the priority of being gritty stories and interesting stories, which definitely plays. My favorite game of all time is Last of Us, and it's partially because of the story and the narrative it tells, right? But not every game needs to be that. Sometimes you like to have fun, easygoing games,
and sometimes games are literally just checking off boxes of what they think gamers want. I go back to Tim Kaine doing videos recently asking, do gamers know what they want and do devs know what gamers want? And the answer really is no. No, we don't. Neither of us know what each other want. Gamers can't agree on what we want, and devs have no idea what we want because we can't agree on what we want.
Well, I think it brings up an argument, and this could be a whole episode in of itself.
Oh God, yeah.
It's the idea that you are trying to appeal to all gamers, right? And I don't think that was when we look back at the best times of gaming, I don't think that's what they were looking for. It wasn't hey, we're making a game that appeals to everyone. It was hey, we're making this cool arcade racing game that's going to appeal to people, those people who are interested in that game, right? It wasn't one of those, hey, everyone needs to play it. It's made for a particular audience. But
it's why we're seeing very few IP that really have staying power anymore because most IP now are being developed for their first game as checkboxes. Look no further than Horizon, which has lost a lot of hype in the last entry. Look at, obviously we'll just keep hitting the eternal punching bag now. Look at Concord. So it does get to a point sometimes where Astrobot is such a prime example of you take something and you don't make it with the intention of just going, hey, what do we need to make sure that as many people as possible are going to play this. Sometimes you just let a studio go with a vision and see what happens. It's why indie games are getting so much better now. It's why they're getting so much more recognition. It's why Balatro, a game that's literally a roguelike about poker hands, nearly won Game of the Year. I'd love to know, like, I don't know how they do their voting at the Game Awards. I'd love to know, like, in the same way that MLB just put out their Hall of Fame ballots for this year and showed, like, specifically how many people got their votes and, you know, how close they were to being unanimous, or like what the percentages were. I'd love to know like how the ballots were for when it came for Game of the Year. I'd love to know who was second and by how much.
Yeah.
Because that's the kind of stuff that I'm like, man, like we actually had a legitimate conversation several times on the show, and other gamers and other channels have talked about the possibility of Balatro being a Game of the Year. And it is not made for a specific, like even the developer said himself, he thought it was made for like 6 of his buddies who would be interested into it.
Yeah, and I think that's what, like, that's how you make art, is you don't make it for an audience, you make it for yourself, and then it finds its audience.
Yeah.
I love Astro, and like the more I think about it, like I can't wait to see what that game looks like next. Like I know we've had a couple Astro games, and this is like the third one, second main like entry, but like I feel like this is a proof of concept, and I want Astrobot to lean in more into the love letter to PlayStation. Like I'd like to see like a game where like it's Astrobot but like with time travel, and you're going through like the different eras of PlayStation, and like there's this like one where Astrobot's playing like a Sly Cooper level, and he's playing like a Jack and Daxter level. Like, oh yeah, that's what I want to see.
The only thing that I hope they don't keep doing is that they keep doing the collect a bunch of bots and here's the same characters again and again, as like here's you know, here's Aloy again, here's Kratos again. It's like, okay, but like at some point the focus shouldn't be on like just throwing every bit of nostalgia at the window. Be selective, because that's going to make them matter more. If they do what, instead of having, you know, 3 out of 7 of the bots you find are characters, just have it so that whether it's a collection element or not, leave that nostalgia out of it, and then the secret levels are what the big reveals are. So that way when a Sly Cooper level comes up, it matters. Because I think at some point, if you overdo it and you keep throwing in the same robot characters again and again, it's going to not have the same weight. Like, it's cute now because it's the first full game we've got of it. But I think if Astrobot 2 comes out and half of the entire roster is the same ones again, it doesn't hit the same way. I mean, there could be alternate costumes. You could maybe get around with some of them, but like not everybody has that.
I'm not trying to say like, hey, like just revisit, but what I'd like to see is them dive deep in like multiple games within the game. So where it's like the Sly Cooper level, you're playing like, you're not playing a Sly Cooper level, but you're playing with Sly Cooper mechanics, the sneaking, the crawling, the combat, and then like you jump over to like a Uncharted level and like the gameplay, like you're now doing a third person shooter game and stuff, right? Like,
yeah, like I'd be more open to leaning harder into
homages to
a number of things rather than doing what they've done here. Like the levels that they did specific to a game were great. That's the real standout. I just don't want them to suddenly just keep on the focus of here's 100 different versions of your favorite character. Like, unless they do, instead of saying they did Joker from Persona 5, for example, this time they throw, oh, here's a different character from that series. Then I'd be like, okay, that's fine. At least you're mixing it up. I just don't want them to see them repeating, just being like, here's Aloy and Silence and a row, and like, I don't want to see them keep doing this every single time. You want to see
the deep cuts.
Yeah.
And I think like the way I'd like to see it too is it's not short levels, but I'd like to see like open, like, it's gonna sound sad, but like open worlds where it's like, hey, you are now in the, you know, Ghost of Tsushima world, and there's 5 or 6 missions throughout there. You know, maybe there's other characters from other franchises in there. Like this would be like how I did the concept of like the PlayStation worlds are all kind of getting mashed up, and now you have, you know, Ratchet and Clank in a Ghost of Tsushima world, and you have to like help them get back to their world.
I would say no to that, but what I would switch up instead is instead of say having the galaxies that we had, you have a series of small levels that are geared to a specific game. So it's like level 1-1 to the Tsushima level is just you out in an open field getting to the castle, and like you work your way to the final level, which is like storming the castle and shit.
Yeah.
Like I think you could do some cool stuff with that. But
you got some stuff cooking. You know.
I would trust Team Asobi to handle that very well.
You know, they've got our contact. It's right down there at the linktr.believe.
Well, unless they're currently making a live service Astrobot game.
I don't think anyone's making live service games right now. So, but we'll talk about that in a second. What I want to talk about, Adam, is Nintendo. Let's talk about the fun stuff first. So, Nintendo last week, released a teaser trailer for their direct.
Yeah, I'm pretty much assuming at this point they only did this because the leaks wouldn't stop, and they said, "Well, we got to do something now before." Because I'm still positive that they must have had a set date for April, and they were just gonna say like, "Hey, we're gonna have a big direct around some date." They were gonna post that heads up, and then we'd all be wondering. I'm pretty sure that this video, like, it's very weird to do a trailer for the event. It's very strange.
I wonder if there's going to be like more conversation, like if it's more of a situation of having it so the developers can talk about games that they're making. And I wonder if there's going to be some trailers coming out and they want to be able to say on the Switch too as well. Because we've had a couple of things where it's like hinting and wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Like we're on all consoles, like all current consoles, Nintendo, wink. And it's like, okay, like we know what you're saying. So now it's like they can come out of the bag and kind of talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, you guys know how I am with handheld consoles. I really don't care too much about them. At the end of the day, what I really want to know is the library. And the last thing I want to hear is that it's going to be another situation where they're a full generation behind tech-wise, and most of the games that are going to be coming out in the next 5 years are just not going to be for the Switch. Because the thing, I'm like, I know a lot of people argue it. Nintendo makes some of the best games. I get it. They really do. When you see a first-party Nintendo game coming out, you know it's got the seal of quality there. But at the end of the day, I can't think of more than 2 hands worth of games in the last 5 years for the Switch that I've gone, I need to play you.
Yeah,
to rephrase, that I go, I need to play you, and I can only play you here. Because at the end of the day, if I want to play a game that's on the Switch, I'd rather play it on PC or a console where I know I'm going to get better frame rate, better options, and just an overall better experience, because I don't play with my hands. I play on my TV or at my desk here. So to me personally, the handheld part of it doesn't matter. So what I need is the library, and that needs to improve before I even get a sniff of a Switch 2 at this point.
See, for me, I'm the opposite. Like, I am not a big Nintendo fan. Like, I am not into Pokemon. I think back to the games I played on Switch, and I didn't play a lot. Like, I played Advance Wars. I tried both the Legend of Zeldas. I played Mario Wonder, Mario, the 2D one, Super Mario Brothers, whatever. Like, I play it a bit, but it's not my primary console, and I don't think for a lot of people it's your primary console. I think it's for indie games, and I think it's for the Nintendo games, right? It's not my go-to console. When I see a game coming out, I'm like, I'm getting that for the Switch, right? That's what PlayStation, that's what Xbox is for. But what Nintendo does release, like they release, like you said, good games, and I think one of the smart things that they're doing here is that making it backwards compatible, right? So like you can play your Switch games. And so I'm looking at my library and I'm looking at it as like, I mean, I've got a couple games that I've been picking up. Like I picked up the Mario Bro, like the 3D Mario World game. Mm-hmm. Haven't opened it yet, and I'm like, at this point, I'm like, should I just like I bought it because it was on sale with Black Friday, coupled with like the tax break. So I'm like, I can get a Nintendo game for $50. Like that's a pretty good deal, brand new. So I got it, but now I'm like, maybe I'll just wait for when the Switch 2 comes out, and I'll just play it on there. Right, like it's an easier transition that I'm not giving up my previous.
It's an easier
Nintendo
transition,
library.
But I'm also not going to pretend that that's not unusual anymore. Like for Nintendo, backwards compatibility has been kind of a unicorn. So for them, obviously, that's a big deal. But I don't think doing the bare minimum counts for anything at this point, especially when, quite honestly, I've already played through most of the library that I'd want to with them.
Yeah, that's fair. I think for me, like I don't have a Steam Deck, and I don't have a library that's worth getting a Steam Deck. For me, I was kind of talking with Jen about it, and I was like telling her about the Switch, and she's like, "Are you gonna get it?" And I said, "Yeah." Like that's my handheld console, right? That's my portable console. If I'm going away on vacation, if I'm going to if I'm going on a car ride, like I'm bringing my Switch with me. because as much as I love the Portal, and the Portal is great, it doesn't fulfill that void. And like, I can see why the Steam Deck is there too, but the Steam Deck doesn't have exclusives, right? Like Nintendo does.
No, but it does have a larger volume.
It does.
So there's the trade-off. I mean, with the price, you're getting so much more in terms of quantity. So
I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm saying for someone like me who is a console gamer, my main sort of hardcore gaming is done on this thing.
Yeah.
Right? I don't need a Steam Deck for that. So I need something that I can bring that's portable and has good games. And that's for me the Nintendo. And being a dad, like I'm at the point now where I'm getting more and more use out of my Nintendo because it's a console that I feel comfortable and it's easier for me to play games with my kids around, right? Like I don't care what, like I know that when I'm playing a Nintendo game, I'm pretty confident that they're not going to see anything that'd be uncomfortable for me to let them see, right? So I can play that while they're playing Lego or having breakfast or something like that. Whereas I am more reluctant to play PlayStation in front of them just because it's like I don't know what they're going to see and I don't want to have to, explain it or deal with nightmares or whatever. So for me, like I think barring any catastrophic news coming out of this, like I think the Switch 2 is going to be a maybe not day one, but definitely year one purchase for me.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, this is what, like, as mad as I am that I don't have my intro bit that I can do on a solo show this week, I'm glad to at least have one of you guys on here because it's a differing opinion. Because if it was literally me just on this show for like 15 to 20 minutes talking about how I don't care that much about this console until they tell me some better games are coming for it, it would have not been the greatest conversation. Because again, the difference between you and I is strictly with like our situations. You're way more geared for a handheld console than I ever could be. Because I mean, I'm the guy who drives everywhere. I'm the guy who is always at his desk. I don't have to fight for TV time. So like I can play it on the best possible machine I can. So apart from the odd Nintendo game, the Switch isn't exactly like a huge seller for me because most indie games, actually pretty much all indie games generally, are going to be on Steam. So I can just play it on my computer and it's there. So I don't need that handheld part of it. So for you, it's an easy sell.
Yeah.
As you said. For me, it's like, I do not need to spend $500 on a thing I'm literally like, because again, that Switch sitting in a room across from here has not gotten any use. And I have no idea how long. And that's not because there aren't games for it. That's not.
You played Mario RPG. That was your last one that you played.
Yeah, so we're talking like.
That was last year, wasn't it?
I think. Yeah, I definitely didn't play it this year. So I don't think I've turned this sucker on. It's been turned on in 2024, just not by me. So.
Oh crap! I turned on automatically. I must have set on the controller.
So it really does come down to Nintendo can't just be, here's a bunch of indie games and here's 3 good games coming from our studios every year. That's not enough for me. And they may say, oh, here's Red Redemption 2. Here's the Final Fantasy VII remake. And I'll be like, cool. I played those 5 years ago.
You can get it for $20 at
GameStop. I can get it. And you're going to sell it for $60 for like the next 7 years. So like, no, I'm not playing this game with you. And this is my honest to goodness. This is why Nintendo needs to get better at being for me. Because it's the only goddamn way Sony and Microsoft are going to try. Because let's be honest, none of them are competing with each other anymore. They're all in their own islands. Nintendo has got their handheld thing and they're happy. Microsoft is just being on everything and they're happy with that now. And Sony's like, we're the first party game studios until we fuck them all up in live service. So they're all on their own spots. They're not actually competing with each other. I can't see an argument that says they are anymore because it doesn't feel like it, because we aren't in that no use games like they did with the PS4 where they said, here's how you can share a game with your friends, and they just hand it. We don't have this anymore. It's just, here's a game we have. And it's like, cool, but what are you trying to do to be better than the other companies? And they're not. They're all making terrible decisions now. Like,
it's
I don't
funny.
like if we really had to sit down, Kaylan, is there like one that you think is rising above the other right now? Because I think it might just be Nintendo on the basis because they're not doing anything wrong, really.
Yeah, like, I don't know. It's funny because like the way I describe it, like I think of it like kind of like a Venn diagram, and it's like each one has like their own spot with like just each one encroaching a little bit.
Yeah,
like,
but the only thing encroaching in the middle is they make video games.
100%, but it's like because you're thinking, I'm like, yeah, like Sony's the first party games, but Nintendo every once in a while is like, we make good first party games too, and Sony's like, yeah, okay, sure, whatever, you could try and compete, and then PlayStation's like, we have a handheld console too, and Nintendo's like, that's cute, sure, you could have that too, and then Microsoft is like, hey, we've got big, AAA graphics games, and PlayStation's like, sure, we'll let you have it.
Yeah, they're not doing anything against each other. They're just like, yeah, sure, go and do that thing. Which cool.
You could have second place.
It's kind of nice once in a blue moon that it is actually kind of funny that the companies are the most cordial between each other than all of the fan bases are. Good lord. But in terms of making everyone better, it's kind of better when they're at each other's throats because it challenges them.
I think I said like in one of the first episodes of the show, like God knows how many years ago, the one thing I want as a PlayStation fanboy is a healthy Xbox because like the one thing that PlayStation needs more than anything is a competitive Xbox to keep them in check.
And it goes beyond that now. Like I need Switch 2 to actually compete with these consoles and not just be the hybrid that's on its own island that's, like a billionaire's dream just sitting there with gold friggin' trees everywhere because no one's doing a damn thing to stop them. It's like this, from this perspective, I know that obviously if they were all competing in the same way that it used to be during the old days of Sega, Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft all competing, that classic E3 picture of Xbox, PlayStation 2, GameCube, and Dreamcast all on the same thing. Yes, those were great days. And you know why those were great days? Because they were all after the same piece of fucking pie. Instead, one of them's eating apple, one of them's eating cherry, and one of them's eating, like, fucking peanut butter pie. Because that's how far Nintendo is completely on their own island. They're like, we're not even eating fruit. Fuck you guys.
One thing I wanted to chat with you about, like, because you talked about games. We haven't heard anything about games on this. So I thought a fun little exercise would be like, we're going to pick 3 games. I want to hear 3 games that you think are contenders to be launch games, and one that you wish is one like your dream.
Do we automatically take Mario Kart out of the equation because that's the
Mario
one
Kart
thing
is
kind
out
of
of the equation.
Okay,
Mario Kart is out of the equation. So we're gonna do like just a guess. It's not gonna probably be.
Does it have to be first party?
It doesn't. No.
Okay.
Well, I'll give it to you. Like, hey, what do you think the launch lineup's gonna be? Like,
okay.
3 guesses. What do you think? What do you think's on there, and what do you wish would be on there? So, like, I got a couple ideas because like I'm thinking about it, and like the obvious one is like a 3D Mario. We haven't gotten one since. Yeah, we haven't gotten one since Odyssey. What the hell's Mario been doing?
Well, I mean,
but at the same time, we're getting a Mario Kart, so like.
That's the part where I'm like, I can't see them having Mario Kart and another Mario game at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was even thinking Prime Forward. I'm like, would they really launch with both a Mario Kart and a Prime game at the same time?
But Metroid's also pretty niche too, right?
Yeah. I'm just thinking, like,
Zelda's
there's probably excuse me, there's probably some weird new thing that they'll just trot out there like Splatoon was.
True. I think that's a very good guess. Is like random.
Like I would just say like new IP. That's just like I can't even say what, but it would just say something a la Splatoon.
We're gonna call it gimmick. The gimmick of the game.
I would actually go on a limb and say Red Redemption 2.
Okay.
Because there's got to be that Witcher 3 that we're just like, hey, there's a game that we all played like 7 years ago, finally on a Switch. And then
so here's what I'm gonna throw out there, and it's a long shot, but I think there might be potential. Hear my argument out for this. Animal Crossing.
I mean, it was in my head.
So my logic being is that Animal Crossing is right now at a high. Like it has never been more popular than it is right now. Everyone remembers it from the pandemic. It brought a lot of people into the Nintendo space. And I think if they kind of said, hey, remember how much fun you had going to all your friends' island stuff? We have a new Animal Crossing on the new Nintendo Switch. It really would incentivize people to go out and get a new Switch in order to play the new game. You even make it backwards compatible so your friends who have the old Switch can go get it. I feel like that's a property that's dormant, popular, and would get people to go out and go get a new Switch.
I'm trying to think. I don't want to go stupid and just pull something weird out, like, oh, they're just going to throw a random, like, Pilot Wings game on there. Just be like, here's just something we're going to pull that you don't expect. Because I'm also looking at their franchise list just to kind of remember if there's anything that I might be forgetting. I'm not going to say what because I can't nail down what it would be, but I think they're going to also have some sort of remake of an old, like, Super Nintendo classic.
Like
a Link to the Past or like a Super Metroid, something akin to that where it's just like, and I'm talking a classic. I'm not talking like Mario is missing. I'm talking a Super Nintendo classic.
Yeah.
And I'm not, and
I was thinking,
I'm not talking like just like touching it up a little. I'm talking like full 3D, sort of like what Super Mario RPG is.
I feel like that, like that's why I say I think Earthbound might be a contender because that's something that people constantly ask for. We've never gotten.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I would love it for it to be a mother game, but it's like Bloodborne. They don't care about what we actually want.
Yeah.
Like, you want me to really hot take it, there are better odds of another Kid Icarus game than an Earthbound remake.
Okay. Why do you say that?
Just because we want Earthbound. That's why. We don't get what we want ever. It took us like almost 20 like 20 years for a Mario RPG comeback. Now they're going to say, well, Paper Mario and Luigi exist. No, you know it's not the same. Mario RPG has always been the better.
Yeah. The other one I could think of, like, being an obvious, easy choice is, like, if you don't have Mario coming out, Nintendo is just too fresh off the press. Like, we've gotten 2 Legend of Zelda games in the past 2 years. I think Donkey Kong. I think Donkey Kong would be the next easy choice.
And I mean, they could even just do something like, hey, we're going to remake something, too. Like, there's always the possibility of just them throwing
Donkey Kong 64.
Or they could literally do just something fun with it and be like, hey, here's some offshoot Diddy Kong game. And we'll just do something wacky with that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because, like,
also,
those things used to, like,
what are the odds that they just throw another gimmicky, like, 1-2 Switch kind of game at launch, too?
That's where we started. Gimmick Game 101, like...
Well, I was saying new IP like Splatoon, so...
Oh. Yeah. In terms of, like, the game...
It's going to be Splatoon 4 somehow.
The game I'd like to see them do is if, like, they were to do another one. You know, I think it'd be cool to have, like, a new Star Fox, like a good Star Fox.
That might be asking for a lot based on the last couple of tries.
True.
Speaking of which, there's a game that I finished at the start of this year called Unicorn Overlord, and there's a bunch of different characters. It's kind of like what Fire Emblem is. They have a continent that is all essentially monster characters, or if we just want to be honest, furries. And the second you get a female like fox-ish looking character, and she's in like battle bikini armor, and my immediate thought is, oh my god, they made Crystal from Star Fox Adventures. And I immediately, because you have the ability to change their look, I immediately recolored her so she looked way more like Crystal, because I'm like, I have to now.
That's cool. So what would be your dream game? What would be like the game that you would love, you want to see as like a Switch?
I want a new Punch-Out, without question.
Mm.
Like, Punch-Out for the Wii is honestly the best of that series, and I need more.
Yeah, we never got a Punch-Out for the Switch. That seems like a weird choice. Not
even like a remake or anything. Yeah, no, I want a new Punch-Out. I don't know why they haven't. Like, I know why, because it probably didn't sell nearly as well, and they don't care. But it was made by Canadian developers for the Wii version, so come on, give us Canucks. We know what the hell we're doing.
Yeah. We'll have to see. We're gonna find out in April more about the Switch, but I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, all I really want to see is I want to see more games coming consistently, and then I want to see that the hardware is at least capable of running potentially a few more games than what the Switch did, because the Switch didn't get anything. Like, it really didn't get anything. And I know that it's not a big deal to the people who are really into that console. They can still get by with indie games. They can still, because I mean, there are games like Bakaru that I really, really loved that, you know, you can play on consoles like that. So there's options. I would not want to be an owner of just a Switch because of the amount of money that I have, and I'm getting literally the bare minimum of what the entire game industry is putting out.
That's a fair point. You know who's not putting out games right now? PlayStation.
I was going to say everybody. It's
Look
January.
At that transition right there.
But technically.
Don't break my transition, Adam. I had a good transition.
Well, I gave you a good one earlier. This is why I'm doing this to you.
Yeah, so Adam, the other big thing that came out this week is we found out that a whole bunch of PlayStation live service games are getting canceled. We had one from Sony Bend that got canceled, right? We had we had a Horizon MMO get canceled, a God of War MMO get canceled.
Wouldn't that have been amazing? And we all would have played it?
All of them, all at the same time.
I mean, Horizon honestly actually could have worked, but Ark already exists.
Of all of them, I feel like Horizon was the one where it's like, okay, I could maybe
But when we heard the God of War thing, we went, under what pretense does that make any sense?
Gods of War, go get them. Like,
it's like, now you're Kratos.
Yeah. No, I like the one I feel like had potential, had legs to maybe stand on was the Horizon MMO, because it'd be cool to like go out with a hunting party and go track down like a woolly mammoth kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, if it could have been something to not like totally like Monster Hunter, but it could have that sort of feel where it's just you and a couple of friends trying to take down a giant monster, and you don't have overpowered equipment.
Mm-hmm. You're not Aloy. You're just you're all the morons.
You're just an NPC.
Yeah, you're the morons that she always like huffs and rolls her eyes at. Like, oh, you guys are useless.
Yeah, like there'd be much more intrigue in that. That being said, as a live service game, it would be even harder on the crafting, which I already don't like about Horizon.
No.
So
yeah,
it probably wouldn't have lasted long, but I at least would have been curious. God of War, on the other hand, if they had put out a trailer for whatever this game was, I would have been like, who is this for? Because it ain't me.
Yeah, what would a God of War live service look like?
Because, like, it can't be about the main characters in it because you can't have that many overpowered gods. It's impossible. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't... The second I saw that, I'm like, either that's just not true, or we've completely gone over the deep end and it's too late now. Because, like, at this point... we could go through the entire PlayStation franchise list and probably find 90% of it would make more sense for a live service game than God of War. And that includes things like Sly Cooper and Jak and Daxter. Because at least with Sly Cooper, you could be like, hey, it's a heist live service game. You can do something with that right off the bat. It's just a cartoony payday. Perfect.
You could do it like Uncharted, where it's just like, hey, every season's a new heist. You get a crew,
mean, Last of Us made sense before the cancel. It just sounds like the game wasn't going to work. Just sounds like whatever they were doing wasn't going to work. God of War, I'm just like, guys, it would have made way more sense to get Arc Systems Works on the phone and make a 2D fighting game. What the fuck are you doing? Because, like, let's be real. A God of War fighting game sounds fucking awesome. With some of the characters you can pull in that, oh boy, you could do some fun shit with that.
So my question to you is, do you think that this whole live service initiative is dead? Are we done talking about live service games for PlayStation? You don't think so?
No. It's just, it's, oh my God. I mean, look, Concord was $400 million. But look at what Marvel Rivals is doing. They'll always look at like, see, it works. And again, we're also talking about a lot of people that are at the top of these companies that aren't game experts. They are just businessmen. They will keep looking at Fortnite. They will keep looking at Destiny. They will keep looking at Apex. They'll keep looking at all those games and go, that's the formula, without realizing you kind of have to have, I don't know, a good game, an actual plan, a fair service model. I mean, again, look at Helldivers. It cost money to get at launch, and still does. And they made sense of it. That being said, were there some trip-ups? Yes. But for the most part, they've made the model work. But for every Helldivers, there's 20 that do the polar opposite. And the reason why there are 20 that do the polar opposite is because there are greedy corporate executives in these companies that don't actually care about making good stuff. They care about money. And they're more than happy to take the risk because they see the reward from the few games that are just, in spite of themselves, making millions every day. I don't think it's dead. I think it's just going to slow down for a moment until one or two work again and they go right back to the formula. In the same way that for the last little while, everything gets overdone. We made that joke, I think last year with Summer Game Fest, about how almost every trailer was a sci-fi horror. And just like now, almost every game is a samurai-esque or medieval sort of esque Souls-like. Because everything takes the thing that's working right now and copies it. Now, if they want to copy Astrobot, I'm happy because those games are goddamn fun. But they probably won't because it's a fun game and they can't copy fun. But I don't see it dying because I just can't see corporate greed not getting in the way. I just can't.
See, I think it is in a way. Like it is with an
like dead means gone. I don't think it's ever going to be gone. I think it's just going to be slowed down and kind of eased off a bit.
Well, I think there's a lot of like negative connotation towards live service games. And I don't think that there needs to be. Live service is a tool that can be used. Like Helldivers 2 is a live service game, and I think it's better for it that it's a live service game. I don't think Helldivers 2 would be as good if it was a standalone or just a straight like multiplayer.
Well, it wouldn't have the staying power. It'd be like Left 4 Dead where it just becomes something in your rotation.
But even still, like if it was like a multiplayer game like Call of Duty or like Payday or something like that, or Half-Life, or not Half-Life, but Left 4 Dead, like it'd get repetitive, right? And part of the reason why Helldivers is so good is because there is that constant like things are changing, them like new missions are introduced and stuff. And like I feel like the line between multiplayer game and live service is getting blurred. Call of Duty was once a multiplayer game and is now a live service game, right? Like you're getting battle pass, you're getting all that. So like I think it's one of those things where I don't want PlayStation to stop making multiplayer games, and I want them to use live services when it fits, right? For Helldivers. I don't want it to be a thing where we are building live service games for the sake of having live services, but rather we are building a live service game because it fundamentally benefits our game, a la Helldivers, right?
Yeah.
But like I look at it, and from a strategy perspective, like I just took a quick look and just quick Google search, Helldivers has sold 12 million copies. Assume like they like 12 million. It's just like let's assume that's a rough number. It may be more now. Let's even say 15 million. If they're selling that game for $40 a pop, they've made 480 million. And this is,
and you know that budget was not high.
No,
they probably made Concord's money back.
No, I don't think it did, because here's the thing, because they said they spent like 400 million to develop Concord, right? So they would have
saying 480 million. I doubt that 80 million was spent on Helldivers.
Probably not, but like, so for them to have
from a technical standpoint, I think they've probably, and that we're not even counting DLC or money that they've spent in game.
Yeah.
So they've probably made Concord's money back now. That's not taking away all the other failed projects, but
yeah. So like, but this is the thing. Like, look at all the like how much this strategy has cost them. I don't think it's one of those ones where they're looking at this as being a net benefit. They have had 5 or 6 failures, right? And we're also including like if we include like the other stuff that they've had, like Foam Stars and that crashing game. I forget what the hell that's called.
Well, Foam Stars isn't a first party. That was Square.
Okay, well, they paid for the exclusivity on that, and I'm sure they're regretting that.
Square's its own mess with its own bad decisions.
Anyways, I'm just saying, like, for the amount of failures they've had, and they've had one success that's generated enough to offset one of their failures, I don't think that's a good look, and I don't think that's one where they think like this is a viable strategy.
But you're also taking into account that they're actually, because again, have we ever seen corporate, make smart decisions when they just keep chasing the dollar that they keep seeking? I think that they're, like I said, they're going to slow down and not take nearly as many of these risks. Like we saw, like the announcement that they're going to do 10 of these. Mm-hmm. It's going to probably become 2, maybe 3.
Yeah.
But like,
and I
don't necessarily think that means they're going to suddenly make 2 or 3 like Helldivers. I still think they're going to make 2 or 3 like The Last of Us, like Horizon. I don't think they're going to, because again, they don't understand what is making games good. They never fucking figure this out. They just see the terms of, or the genres, and go, well, that's what they want. They see the basic things on a sheet of paper and go, do this, and do this. And they don't really care what the ins and outs actually are. I think that there's room, like the reason that Helldivers works is that it is already a fun game. That is the prerequisite for starters. But what is it that keeps you coming back? It's always adding something. It's always getting, like, whether you are still playing it or whether you've taken a break, there is a reason to go back. Whereas what a lot of these games are suffering from is that there's not even a reason to play in the first place. It doesn't matter what they add to it when the experience is no good. And it goes with other, like, and obviously some games will work differently for it, but like, you need to get people's foot in the door first. And the problem that they do with these live service games repeatedly is that they just assume that your foot will be in the door. The reality is you have to make a solid 8 to 9 out of 10 game first to even get people's foot in the door in a live service game. Because how many people were not even looking at Helldivers 2 because it was live service? But then the reviews came out, the word of mouth came out, and then the numbers shot up. Because I didn't get it at launch. I waited to see what would happen because I was curious, but I didn't want to get it right away because I was nervous. And then the word of mouth spread. And then I got into the server mess that was the first couple of weeks of Helldivers. And it worked. But then you have all of the other ones that have come out, whether it's Concord, whether it's Foam Stars. You know, all of these games suffer from the same problem. People played it, and no one talked about it in the first week. Because why? Because they didn't make the game with any intention of making a game that had life to it. They made a series of checkboxes. The consistent mistake that so many AAA games are making, it's why most of my favorite games this year did not come from AAA developers. It's because they're making games for what they think people want, and they're not making games for what they think would be fun for them, and in turn would be fun for the people that would enjoy these types of games. Helldivers worked because the developers went, we want to make a game that would be fun for us to play with our friends because we love that kind of co-op gameplay, and god damn it, somebody need to make a good Star Troopers game. And people went, you know what? That works for us too. Whereas Concord went out and said, we need to copy Overwatch, and that was their model. And it didn't work. Why? Because people already fucking hated Overwatch by that point too, but also Overwatch already exists. You can't just build a game on the pretense of copying it. You have to make a reason for people to play it. Marvel's Rivals honestly got a better shot because of the license. It got people to at least try it. But then it also actually was good. So that helps. But Concord has no attachments to it, apart from being a Guardians of the Galaxy looking knockoff. So like, I think what might happen is live service games that they produce, they may look more at, okay, Helldivers worked for us, why? But I don't think they'll do that for all of them. Because again, they'll still look at what's popular right now. Oh, Marvel's Rivals is popular, so that means we should try to make Concord again, just with a different set. Because again, businessmen don't understand gaming, they understand money. The problem is when you make a game based on money, we generally don't like it anymore because we're finally at that point that we've kind of, excuse me, the average person hasn't necessarily smartened up to it, but the majority of people that stick with these games have.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good way to kind of end it there on that little rant, but yeah, I think you make a good point.
Look, I'm sorry, but I'm always happy to throw just 5 minutes of diatribe out there because god damn it.
It's what the people want. Yeah. It's what the people want.
Well, and if you want more of those diatribes, we'll see about that.
And if you want more of those diatribes, you can find them every week on the PixelPlay Podcast, here on YouTube or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us by searching for PixelPlay Podcast. If you want to be part of the community, part of the friends, you can find us at linktr.ee/PixelPlay Podcast. Join the Discord. We've got a great community there, but we could always use some more people, and we'd love to have you. I'm talking to you. Yeah, that's you. You think I'm talking to someone else, but it's not. It's you. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye for now.